Welcome, welcome, welcome to our Breakfast Club call. My name is Pamela Pacheco, and I have the absolute honor, pleasure, and privilege of being your host on this beautiful Thursday morning. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Kindly state your name. Let me know where you're dialing in from. Welcome, welcome Tampa, Florida. Welcome New York City. Welcome Jersey. Welcome Jamaica. Welcome Chicago. Welcome ATL. Welcome Philly. Welcome, welcome, welcome everybody. Kindly state your name. Let me know where you are dialing in from. Welcome, welcome to our Breakfast Club call. Yes, yes, yes. My name is Pamela Pacheco, and I have the absolute honor, pleasure, and privilege of being your host on this beautiful Thursday morning. If you're joining us for the first time, welcome. If you're joining us once again, welcome home. I remember when I first embarked upon entrepreneurship 12 years ago, I was looking forward to these type of morning mentorship calls, not only for the information I was receiving, but for the inspiration I was going to receive. Garbage in is garbage out, and greatness in is greatness out. And how you start your day sets the tone for your day. So kudos to each and every single one of y'all that decided to start your morning off with some fire this morning, with some positivity, with some greatness. Welcome, welcome, welcome. First things first, happy birthday, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. So grateful for your work. I'm so grateful for your legacy, and I am grateful that he did what he did so that we can live a life full of dreams again. So welcome and freedom above all. But let's talk about today's call. And if you joined us last week, last year, if you joined us last week, we had a really great conversation talking about not only being in the right rooms, right? We spoke about making sure that this is not only something we were talking about decision making, right? Why clarity without commitment keeps you stuck. And what I wanted to talk about today is focus, because I believe that when your focus is off, your purpose suffers. And how self-sabotage and imposter syndrome hijack your calling. And I wanted to start today by not only grounding us in something I say all of the time, because it's true every single time, but what you focus on the longest truly does become the strongest. Where attention goes, energy flows. And what you focus on truly does expand. So if you've been feeling frustrated, scattered, or like you're doing a lot, but not actually moving forward in the way you're capable of, I want you to hear this clearly. You are not broken. You are not lazy. I don't care what nobody tells you, and you're not behind. Most of the time, when purpose feels blurry, it's not because we've lost it, it's because our focus has drifted. And when focus is off, purpose doesn't just disappear, it starts suffering quietly. So I believe more than anything that focus is truly and truly a form of stewardship. Let me explain, what do I mean by that? Because I know you're like, wait, Pam, like stewardship. Let me sip my coffee. Yes, you do the same. And why do I say that? Because if you are the person and you're like, well, I'm very focused, I'm on my P's and Q's, I know exactly what I'm doing. However, I do believe that what you allow to occupy your mind will eventually occupy your life. Again, my note takers, because I always say take notes as if one day you would be teaching this yourself. What you allow to occupy your mind will eventually occupy your life. What you tolerate mentally will multiply emotionally, and what you avoid will slowly start running the show. A lot of self-sabotage, if I'm being honest, it doesn't really look like quitting. It looks like being busy with the wrong things. It looks like being distracted. It looks like distraction sometimes dressed up as productivity. And let me not even get started on imposter syndrome, because that usually shows up when you're doing nothing, but when you're actually stepping into alignment. Not when you're just doing nothing, but when you're stepping into alignment. The moment you decide and you cut off all other options, you kill off all other options. The moment you decide to say, I am going to step into that next level of me, that little voice starts playing tricks on you. And as we're having this conversation, I started off the day and I told you guys, today would have been the birthday of Dr. Martin Luther King. And when I think about Dr. King and what stands out to me, it wasn't only just the dream, but it was the discipline of his focus. He wasn't perfect. He wasn't fearless, but he was focused. He didn't live distracted. He didn't move reactively. Everything was strategic. He didn't allow fear, criticism, or noise to constantly pull him off of assignment. He understood something powerful. Purpose requires courage, and courage requires clarity, and clarity requires focus. So when we celebrate the dream today and this upcoming Monday, it needs to be a little different because we don't always talk about the daily discipline it takes to protect your calling. And distraction, it doesn't always come as us as opposition. Sometimes it comes as overcommitment. Sometimes it comes as noise. Sometimes it comes as trying to do everything instead of what actually matters. When the wrong focus distorts purpose, that can be a very, very dangerous place to be in. Why do I say that? Because purpose needs clarity to breathe, but clarity can't survive chaos. When you're focused, it's constantly pulled toward comparison. We live in a world where social media pulls us one way, and we see somebody posting something here and posting something there, and we're like, oh my goodness, this, that, No, 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 no. You want to make sure that your focus is not pulled that way. Here's another thing where focus is constantly pulled toward urgency. Sometimes it's pulled towards everyone else's timeline. Sometimes it's pulled towards metrics that don't actually matter. So what happens is that your purpose, it starts competing for attention instead of guiding your decisions. One of my favorite Bible verses is the Lord will order my steps. His word will be a light, like a lamp to my feet. Why? Because, see, here's a question that I had to ask myself, and maybe you need to ask it too. What am I focused on that I was never meant to carry? Sometimes we're not stuck. We're just overextended in areas that don't necessarily belong to us. Movement, it doesn't always mean progress. A lot of people think it's like, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy, I'm busy. Yes, successful people are busy, but they're busy being productive. Sometimes it just means motion without direction. So if you are thinking, don't confuse movement for progress. Oh, I'm moving, I'm staying in motion. No, 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 no. Because sometimes it's just motion without direction. See, I believe that self-sabotage isn't failure. Sometimes it's protection. So let's talk about a little bit about self-sabotage. Self-sabotage, it doesn't mean you don't want it badly enough. Most of the time, it's our nervous system. It's trying to protect you from unfamiliar expansion. So it may show up as procrastination. I suffered from that myself. It may show up as perfectionism, guilty as charged. It may show up as overthinking. It may show up as starting, but not finishing. And let me be the first one to tell you if nobody's told you. It's not because you're incapable, but because growth requires your identity to catch up with your assignment. Self-sabotage is not failure. It's fear trying to keep you safe. And once I stopped shaming myself for it, and started getting curious about it, intrigued about it, everything shifted. Because the more knowledge you have about something and the more actions that you're taking in alignment with your assignment, and the more you raise your own level of awareness, it no longer controls you. It no longer has power over you. And you are the author of your own destiny, right? Imposter syndrome, it hits the cult, but it don't hit the comfortable. I'm gonna say it again. Imposter syndrome hits the cult, not the comfortable. Why? Because imposter syndrome, it doesn't hit people who are stagnant. It hits people who are expanding. I was reminded this yesterday. I was doing a client discovery call, and man, what a powerhouse, right? Of a person. I'm not going to say it was a girl. I'm not going to say it was a guy, right? But it reminded me of, man, imposter syndrome is so real. And it will lie to you when you are on the move. And I'm talking about, this person is more credible than probably anybody you've ever seen, right? A published author, over 40 plus published articles, man, just looking to get to that next level. But then that little voice comes, the imposter syndrome. It doesn't hit you when you're stagnant. It hits you when you're expanding. It doesn't hit you when you're just comfortable, when you're just resting on your laurels. It hits you when you're stepping into that next level of you, into that next level that's a little bit uncomfortable, but that you know you're called to be in. And it shows up 99.999% of the time when your calling is stretching you beyond what's familiar, because that's what your calling is supposed to do. It's not supposed to keep you in familiar territory. When your current identity hasn't caught up with where God is taking you yet, here's what that looks like. Tell me if you've ever thought this before. Who am I to do this? What if I mess this up? Oh my goodness. What if people don't think I'm good enough? What if people see through me? And I'm going to tell you, that's not proof you don't belong. That's proof that you're growing. And here is what changed everything for me. Clarity silences imposter syndrome faster than confidence ever will. Say that again. Clarity will silence imposter syndrome faster than confidence ever will. That's not hype, not affirmations. It's structure. It's structure. So you guys know I always talk about my routine, always compartmentalizing my life and my 5 Fs, my faith, my fitness, my family, my fortune, my fun, all of these things. But I do believe that focus requires systems, not willpower. And this is where people burn out, because they think the answer is, I got to be more disciplined. No, I got to be more motivated. I got to have more willpower. But focus leaks when everything lives in your head. And what helped me was putting structure behind my vision, because systems stand for saving yourself some time, energy, and money. I've always heard that acronym, right? But systems, they do not replace creativity. Oh, on the contrary, they actually protect it. So once I had systems in place, my focus stopped bleeding everywhere. My decisions became cleaner. My energy became more consistent. And I stopped trying to carry everything myself. There's power of support. You guys hear me talk about commitment always lasts longer in community. Absolutely. And shout out to our entire community that was at our mastermind and mimosas, our 3rd annual one last weekend. It was a huge success, huge blessing. Standing room only, absolutely incredible. Thank you so much. We had people that drove from Orlando, Florida. We had people that flew in. I'm just so eternally grateful. Thank you so much. And I'm going to tell you guys, here's something that made a big difference for me. I stopped seeing support as weakness. I had to. And I started seeing it as stewardship. Because if I believe I'm called to do meaningful work, I also have a responsibility to build support around that work. Does that make sense? So, what exactly do you mean by that, Pam? Well, if I know I have to build support around the work that I do, not in a cold or robotic way, but one of the things that I love about the system I use is that I have literally an AI employee. And you're like, but wait, what? Imagine you having an AI employee. It doesn't matter what line of work you're in, whether it's network marketing, whether it's coaching, it's consulting, it's investing, it's teaching, it's content creation, it's video production, content production, finance, if you are a writer, if you are a blogger, it doesn't matter. And I could go down the line. If you are a podcaster, doesn't matter what it is that you do. But imagine you having somebody that is just supporting you. Excuse me. It not only remembers things that you need, right? I used to outsource having literally like a VA, a virtual assistant. And it was cool, but they were all the way overseas in a different time zone. So it was like a little conflict of interest there, right? Not necessarily conflict of interest, but conflict of time zones that kind of made the communication not be as effective as I needed it to be. So I love having an AI employee because it remembers, it follows up, it organizes, it responds. So my mind doesn't have to hold everything, because that kind of support, it doesn't have to hold everything together. But that kind of support, it does not replace the leadership. On the contrary, it creates space for it. A lot of people are like, oh my goodness, you just put this event together. I have the best team. Shout out to Eslin, right? I love you, Eslin. You're probably watching. I know you're in Arizona right now, right? You know, I have the best team around, like, absolutely. Our chosen global family is absolutely incredible. The community, all of these things. But these systems is what creates space for me to be able to be creative. It's what creates space for me to be able to show up at my highest and best use. Because I've learned, just because I could do it, it don't mean that I need to be doing it. I'm going to say it again for somebody watching this. Just because you're good at something, or just because you could do it, it doesn't mean that's what you need to be doing. So it created space for the things that I needed. And what I realized was that when your mind is constantly juggling details, imposter syndrome, when your mind, sorry, is not juggling the details, imposter syndrome and self-sabotage, it automatically quiets down. Why? Because clarity brings peace. Clarity brings peace. So I'll tell you, if for whatever reason you're watching this and you're like, man, I do need to focus better. I do need to have better systems in place. I do need to make room for the things that matter, but I'm busy. I have this, I'm running multiple businesses. This is something perfect for you to have. If this conversation, for whatever reason, is hitting home for you, here's what I want you to hear. Awareness is very, very powerful, but awareness without action eventually turns into frustration. Some of you don't need inspiration. You need clarity, structure, and accountability. And that is why I created the 5-day challenge to help you build your brand, build your business, or whatever it is that you need to do with clarity, systems, structure, and accountability. Because it's not to build something overnight. Because some of these people are like, oh my goodness, I can't do 5 days back to back. You don't have to. It can be spread out in 5 weeks. However, it's to help you realign your focus, your message, and your execution. Because when your focus is right, your purpose always moves again. I'll leave you with this. What you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. Where attention goes, energy flows. And what you focus on expands. Your purpose isn't lost. It's waiting for you to focus. And focus doesn't come from trying harder. I've been in places that I'm like just going and going and going and going. And I'm trying, I'm doing my best, and I'm going, and I keep running into a brick wall, and I'm tired, and I'm getting burnt out, and all of these things. And I'm just like, dang, Pam, like, what's going on? What is it that you need to fix? What holes do you need to fill? Well, it's that specific thing. It's very much so that I needed to have better systems in place. I did. Because again, what you focus on the longest becomes the strongest. Where attention goes, energy flows, and what you focus on expands. Your purpose is not lost. It's waiting on your focus. And your focus does not come from trying harder. It comes from choosing better. So choose wisely because you matter and your dreams do too. This has been your Breakfast Club call for Thursday, January 15th. Breakfast has been served. As always, it is a pleasure, honor, and privilege to serve you guys. Blessings on blessings. Let's get it.